Hey guys, what's happening? So it's time for us to get into another big spill, where for this one we'll be covering the full story of Predator versus Black Panther. And I do want you guys to keep in mind through the course of this, the fact that even though this is a Marvel story, it does not take place in the main Marvel universe. And I just want to put that out there before we get started, because in our previous talks, people were like, oh man, they changing Black Panther's history. But no, that's not the case. This is something totally different. So with that said, if you enjoy these videos, be sure to drop a like, subscribe if you're new to the channel, and don't forget to hit that bell up top to get all notifications. Alright, so going right into this, Benjamin Percy's taken a very different approach here from what we saw in the Predator vs. Wolverine miniseries, because right away he gives us a lot of backstory for what's going to be the main Predator throughout this miniseries. Because starting out, we're shown this planet in the Wolf Star system, which is said to be one of the great treasures of the galaxy. And as it stands, there are two rival clans who have the opportunity to take this planet, or this hunting ground, to themselves, with the leader of each clan both being brothers, who hope to make their father, the king, proud. And as we're told, the king, he does not see his sons as equals. One had the strength of an entire hunting party, the other was born small and missing a leg. And as we're told, the smaller of the two brothers, he's the one who demanded this hunt, so he could claim this hunting ground for himself, even though it would mean the death of one brother or the other. But going forward, the father, the king, even though in the past he's shown his favoritism towards one of these two, it was on this day where he made it clear, because the king picked up his spear, and this spear, it never leaves his side. Their father acquired it on Earth many years ago, during one of the greatest hunts of his life, and it contained power like no other in his arsenal, with it being made with what the Yautja call God Metal, and the humans call Vibranium, with it having the ability to absorb and expel kinetic energy. But right here, he picks up the spear and he swings it towards the smaller of his two sons, only to stop its blade right in front of his face just before handing this vibranium spear to the larger, stronger brother. And it's super disrespectful, because like I said, it was on this day where their father made it clear which one of these two was his favorite, because now this spear gives an advantage to the larger, stronger son, who was likely going to come out on top already. So when the time came and the blood sport went underway, it lasted many rotations around the sun. And at first, the two clans would pick each other off, but in the end, when Big Brother used that vibranium spear, his clan won this contest by a landslide. And though he was defeated, this didn't kill the smaller brother. And instead of giving him what would be considered to be a warrior's death, the larger brother just left the smaller one to die, as a way to humiliate him. So he stripped him of his weapons, tied him to a totem, and abandoned him in disgust. Because had the younger one died in battle at least, his death would have brought honor to his name and his clan. And because the smaller one didn't have the strength or mobility like his bigger brother, he had no choice but to be smarter and do things like integrate tech into his body just to make himself more formidable. So after some time, he ends up cutting himself free to bring together what remained of his clan, knowing that their loss was not an honest one. And as it turns out, from the moment he knew that his father was maneuvering against him, he made sure to put in place a backup plan, which involved hiding a ship below the lake so him and the remaining members of his clan could travel to Earth and hunt down the source of vibranium, because he imagined that he'd be able to use this material for his body armor, his wrist gauntlet, or his leg, and build himself into the ultimate predator. And to find where the vibranium was on Earth, he used the information his helmet had collected when they were attacked, which revealed multiple sources of vibranium around the world, but the epicenter, or the mother lode, it was in Africa. So him and his clan made their way there. But before they arrive, we head to Wakanda, where we find the Dora Milaje and the Hattusarazi participating in a competition that eventually comes down to T'Challa and Okoye. And just to be clear, this isn't the main Marvel universe that we're dealing with here, and there's going to be a few clear indications of that early on in this story. Because for starters, this T'Challa, he's still the king, unlike 616 T'Challa, who got exiled after putting together a secret team of spies who later turned into terrorists. But while T'Challa and Okoye are sparring here, T'Challa's suit gets hacked by Shuri, with there being this kind of playful debate about T'Challa not being able to keep up with Okoye if he didn't have the suit at his disposal. But he ends up coming out on top anyway. And following this, Shuri tells T'Challa about how much they're needed just outside of Wakanda, which he understands, but he also knows if they were to try and help and be there for everyone, it would leave Wakanda vulnerable. So she tells T'Challa she wants to show him something, though she doesn't say what it is, not at first. So she takes him outside of the foothills of Wakanda's capital, Bernanzana. And there's this moment here where they're scaling the cliffside of this waterfall, where Shuri's trying to show T'Challa how she can climb so much faster than him, only to have the rocks break out from under her, so she starts to fall. And when T'Challa catches her, it turns into this teaching moment where he tells her, when you move fast, you're more likely to stumble. And I can't help but to think this is going to be one of those moments that T'Challa thinks back to, where it reminds him of just what he needed to know at the right time or something. But we end up finding out that Shuri was taking T'Challa to the place where all the rivers meet to introduce him to Magikina, a seer from the river tribe. Because to him, when all these rivers come together, it makes this huge network that allows him to see the different troubles that are happening from thousands of miles away. So he ends up telling T'Challa about how 500 miles north, there's people suffering a drought, and how 1,000 miles in the east, there's a new virus that has people coughing their lungs out. But all of this just goes back to what Shuri was saying about others needing Wakanda's help, because it's something that Shuri had been trying to get T'Challa to do for some time. Like, from how this is shown, it's not like she just started today. But while they're here, the Predator also arrives in Wakanda. And when it gets here, it immediately spots the cloaked energy dome. And right away it notices that the cloaking technology the Wakandans are using, it's very similar to what the Yautja use for their ships. And this makes it fairly easy for him to hack the barrier and make his way inside. So as you might imagine, this means big trouble for any piece of Wakandan tech. But upon entry, it doesn't take him long to find and scan T'Challa, as the cloaked Predator ship's moving around and surveying Wakanda. But when the cloaked ship gets a little too close, it startles the wildlife, and right away T'Challa knows that something's not right. So he tells Shuri to take the Elder to safety as T'Challa makes his move to investigate. But at this point, with the Predator seeing T'Challa's suit, this guy's like, I need that. I'ma need you to come up off of that. Because not only is he here to take vibranium so he can refashion his existing weapons with it, but also he now sees the Black Panther as this insanely valuable trophy, because he knows if he brings this back, this would be an unparalleled achievement that he could call his own. So next, he ends up telling two members of his clan to continue to go and survey Wakanda to locate the source of vibranium, while the others join him to go hunting. And as they drop down from the ship, for a moment here we see T'Challa reaching out to Okoye to join him for another maneuver, though this time it's the real thing. But when he tries to tell her more detail, cause he believes something has made its way there, before he can tell Okoye, his comms start breaking up, and it quickly gives him the suspicion that it's been jammed. And it's not long before T'Challa starts finding other clues, cause next he finds this dead bird that looks like it flew into a window at full speed. But as he's investigating this, the other cloaked predators surround him from above, as 3 dots appear on his head and he's blasted out of this tree. And as he falls from what is very high up, we're told that his vibranium suit saved him from what would have been a kill shot, and with the impact leaving him heavily dazed, the Panther falls into concussed darkness, as the mud in the swamp swallows him up. And when we head back to Shuri, who still has the seer with her, we find out that she's still moving forward with her plans to help the people in the surrounding areas, even though T'Challa didn't approve of any of it. But as she leaves with the seer, keep in mind that she has no idea about any of this Predator business that's going on right now. So for her, this is what she would have done anyway, because she would rather take action now and ask for forgiveness later. But just as Shuri exits the barrier, she loses communication with Control, because come to find out, one of the scouting Predators, they've made their way inside, and he just bodies this guy before he even knows what happened. So this Predator, he tries to cover things up here, but even still, Shuri knows that something's not right. And in the meantime, as this Predator is taking over their systems to keep Wakanda from getting any help from the outside, Shuri's just like, wait, something's wrong. So she turns back around to make her way in. But when she announces that she's about to re-enter the barrier does not open. And the next thing we see is just an explosion. And it's crazy because not only did these Predators just easily get the drop on Wakanda and take over the defenses, but now they've set this place up to be their hunting ground, which now forces the Wakandans to show what they're made of, without the help of their technology, and in some cases, without the help of each other. So this one just might go down a little different than what we saw in Secret Invasion, cause right out of the gate, these Predators are ready to go through whoever they need to get to that vibranium. Alright, so coming back, at this point the Predator and his scouts have already infiltrated Wakanda, and it was fairly easy for them to get past Wakanda's cloaking technology and energy shields, since the technology was very similar to what the Yautja were already using. So after getting in, they immediately took over Wakanda's control station and locked down Wakanda's shields, which at the time caused Shuri's ship to crash into the energy dome when she attempted re-entry. And the last time we saw T'Challa, he'd been caught off guard by a sneak attack after attempting to reach out to Okoye, and he wasn't even able to get her the full message before their comms were jammed. So for the time being, T'Challa's down with no communication, while Okoye and the others are looking to find him and figure out exactly what's going on. And even though Okoye doesn't know that they're being hunted by predators, or even what predators are for that matter, what she does know is that something's not right, so she's highly suspicious of this being some sort of attack. So she's making sure that they search with caution. And right here, when they go further into the jungle to find T'Challa, I like what Benjamin Percy mentions here about Okoye, because we're told that she's a great warrior, which I think most people already know, but it goes on to say not just because of her strength, but also because of her awareness, because it says she knew everything around her as if her nerves extended into the vines of the jungle. She saw the python curling around a branch. She heard the rusty chirrup of the clawed frog. She smelled the burbling pockets of methane. She clocked 1,000 other observations in the space of a few seconds. But it was the lack of a certain sensory detail that narrowed her attention, because the birds in the canopy were silent. And it's right here where one of the members of the Dora Milaje, Nala, gets snatched up into the trees. So quickly, Okoye tells her soldiers to form a cluster, stand back to back, only for it to soon after start raining blood. So they go spears up with an electric attack, which manages to get this predator to come out from the trees, though sadly it's already taken Nala's head as its trophy. And after this scout predator steps out, Okoye and the others are able to take it down quick. And when they do, mind you, this is their first time having ever seen a predator, so they're not exactly sure what this thing is, how intelligent it might be, or even if it's alone. And surely enough, they find that out the hard way, as the other nearby predator scouts open fire, forcing Okoye and the others to get out of there. To where following this, next we jump back over to T'Challa, who's just now recovering after taking multiple plasma beams to the head. And all he's really aware of at this moment is that whatever hit him, it would have killed him had he not been wearing his Panther suit. So for a moment here as he gathers himself, he starts to remember some of the things he saw leading up to this, like the cloaked object in the sky, the mysterious dead birds, and then it dawns on him, the last thing T'Challa did before heading up to the treetops was reach out to Okoye before their comms got jammed. So this has T'Challa racing back, hoping to find Okoye and the others, but when he does, all he finds is a dead predator with Nala's severed head next to it. But at least now, T'Challa's enemy has a face. And I mean, even though to him it's not a familiar one, but this at least lets him know that whatever he's dealing with, it's not human, and it can bleed. But right after finding this, T'Challa hears a scream nearby, coming from another member of the Dora Milaje, so he goes to check it out, only to find her trapped in another scout predator's mechanical net, which, as you guys know, these things get tight and they'll cut through skin, muscle, and bone. So quickly, T'Challa cuts her free, but mind you, through the course of this, he's learning more about the enemy, because after being attacked, he realized their plasma blast couldn't penetrate his vibranium. And in addition to that, his vibranium was able to cut right through this net. He knows that they're using cloaking technology, he now knows what they actually look like, he knows they can be killed. So piece by piece, all of this information's come together. But as soon as T'Challa frees her, another scout predator starts coming. And following this, we next head outside the Wakandan border, and it's here where we finally get a little bit of good news, because Shuri is still alive. But as it stands, her and Magikina are locked out of Wakanda, since the predators have came in and taken over their defenses. So for Shuri, the first thing she does is make sure that Magikina is okay. But right after that, she attempts to hack the perimeter shield so they can get back inside. But as soon as she tries to, it's immediately noticed by the predators who took over the control room. So right away, they send out a scout to investigate the attempted perimeter breach, because as it stands, they've practically taken control of Wakanda, so they're not trying to let any additional help just stroll in. But on top of that, they already know to some degree that Shuri was trying to get back in, so they more or less have an idea of who they're going after right now, in the case of Shuri. So next, since Shuri doesn't have a way of communicating with T'Challa or anyone inside, Magikina from the River Tribe, he uses the nearby water to find out what's going on in Wakanda. And as soon as he does, he finds out these predators have killed a number of people, So when Shuri asks him what did he see, he tells her, "I see the death of Wakanda." And he goes on to tell her something has come for us, a horror I don't recognize. And as soon as he tells her this, Shuri is then snatched up from behind and pulled inside. And just following this, when we go back to T'Challa, there's a moment here where he catches the translucent movement of a cloaked scout predator that, like we saw, was trying to get the drop on him. And for T'Challa, it seemed like he was staring into a reflection of wind-blurred water, much like the cloaked object he saw in the sky before. So for a moment here, it's like he acts like he doesn't see it until it gets close enough so he can grab it and actually fight this thing. So right away, T'Challa goes for the head, hoping to disable it, kicking the scout predator into the water. And it makes for this moment here where we're told that T'Challa, he always thought he would have to protect Wakanda from the United States or Russia or China, a world power kind of threat. Because at first, it's almost like that's who he was expecting to be an intruder. But now with him discovering this enemy is from a whole different world, that in itself makes this threat a bit more intimidating, because it introduces the possibility of this creature having weapons technology that surpasses Wakanda's. So in this moment, when a crocodile sneaks up on this predator, it's a relief to T'Challa to know that even this creature is subject to the law of tooth and claw. But T'Challa doesn't just leave this whole thing up to chance, because on one hand, he would rather take this predator somewhere and figure out a way to interrogate it so he can learn more about who they are and where they're from, that kind of thing. But for a moment here, as he's watching in the shadows looking like Batman, T'Challa just ends up killing this predator, because from what he could see, there's a chance this thing was still gonna kill the crocodile. And as the Black Panther, he's sworn to protect all of Wakanda, even the crocodiles. So next, a member of the Dora Milaje that he saved, she tells him, "My king, when they attacked, we forgot our training. Everyone scattered." So T'Challa tells her there's no time for regret, we must gather again. So they head out to find the others. Meanwhile, up in the treetops, the head Yautja, the leader of this clan, watches and listens from above. And at this point, he's learned quite a bit about the Black Panther too, because just now he saw him dispose of one of his clan warriors, in addition to the Black Panther surviving 3 plasma blasts to the head. So for the clan leader, this made the Black Panther more than worthy prey, and it reassured what he thought before about the Black Panther's vibranium suit being a coveted trophy. Because leading up to this, he knew how powerful vibranium was, because he witnessed it firsthand when his brother used his father's vibranium spear against him, devastating his clan before they made their way to Earth. But fast forward to now, with this predator being in Wakanda, he now has his own vibranium spear. But at this point, to him, it doesn't even seem like a prize anymore. But while he's here watching T'Challa from above, he gets hailed by one of his scouts, requesting his immediate presence. So after hearing this, he just lets T'Challa go, and he makes his way to take a look at what his scouts have discovered, which from here leads him to the Great Mound. And as he makes his way there, we're told, he was of 2 warring minds, excited by the novelty of the hunt, while trying to focus on the reason his clan had come here. Vibranium, God metal, the belly of the mountain was full of it. And as he goes inside, we're told, a greed took over him then. He imagined armor, weapons, and warships. He imagined a throne. He imagined his father and brother shamed and bloodied. The patient reclamation of his honor was before him. The brief, violent pleasure of hunting could wait. Cause it's like, man, now that he's found Wakanda's primary extraction site for vibranium, the vibranium jackpot, so to speak, this dude's about to upgrade his gear, which is likely what he wants to do first before he goes toe to toe with the Black Panther. And after that, this dude just wants to build his own intergalactic empire, which from there would definitely be a problem, because his clan already has the technological advancements. Alright, so coming back, we pick up at the Great Mound, where the head Yautja and his scouts have already started to source Wakanda's vibranium. And as they do, there's a moment here where the head Yautja, their clan leader, he's holding a piece of vibranium, and as he does, he can just feel its energy pulsing down his arm. And for a moment here, he's just looking at it and visualizing how he's going to upgrade himself and his armor with it, as well as his warships, because after this, the first thing he wants to do is get revenge on his brother and his father, because not only did his father choose his brother over him, with this predator being the smaller and weaker of the two, but also it's because his father gave his brother the advantage by giving him his vibranium spear, which his brother used against him and his clan. And like we saw, this Predator's original plan was just to come to Earth and get a spear like his father's. But after invading Wakanda and getting access to the Great Mound, as well as seeing for himself the many ways the Wakandans use vibranium, and now this has his ambitions shooting through the roof. He wants to make a vibranium throne, put his brother's skull on the wall as a trophy. You know, he's ready to show out. And the members of his hunting party are practically on the same thing, because there's a ton of them hunting throughout Wakanda to collect trophies because they want to show their strength as well. But as one of these predators is collecting a lion's skull, he holds it to his chest like, oh yeah, this is gonna look nice right here, only to soon after catch a spear through the back from none other than Okoye, who at this point has now killed 3 of them. And right after this, she's nearly taken out by another predator who spotted her from up in the trees, but that one's taken out by T'Challa, who shows up and snaps its neck, which is something I don't think I've seen before in any Predator film or comic. Like, I can only imagine that takes a significant amount of strength. And so now this is the first time T'Challa and Okoye have seen each other since the Predators arrived. So at first they're just relieved to know that the other's okay, but now they've got to figure out their next move. Because prior to this, when their comms were taken down, this let T'Challa and the others know that Bern and Zana had already been compromised. So right here, one of the members of the Hattusarazi suggests that they hurry there. So T'Challa tells them that they will move quickly, but they've got to be careful in planning their next move, because these intruders have already caught them off guard before, and that's already cost them many lives. So if they were to rush now without thinking, that could cost them even more. So next, T'Challa goes over what they've learned about this new enemy so far. And one of the first and most obvious things is that they're hunters, which from there begs the question, why would they hunt in Wakanda, since there's plenty of other places on Earth they could have hunted? So after posing this question, the answer is pretty obvious, and that's vibranium. And I mean, sure, there's other places on Earth where you could find vibranium, like the Antarctic vibranium with its anti-metal properties. I'm sure there's some locations where you can still find reverbrium, which is like your synthetic vibranium, but among the rest, there's nothing like pure Wakandan vibranium. And there's no place in the world that has more than the Great Mound. So T'Challa and the others hurried to get there next. And as they do, for a moment here we jump back over to Shuri, who we last saw with Magikina, just outside of Wakanda's border, being pulled back inside the perimeter by a scout predator. But as he tries to keep Shuri from getting pulled in, he's quickly wounded in the process. And you can tell that he knows that this is about it for him, because he tells Shuri all water is connected to other water, just as all blood is connected to other blood, which is pretty much him saying his goodbyes here. But even still, Shuri tells him to get back, as if moving to a safe distance was an option for this guy, only for this predator to be like, nope, I'm not even gonna let him get the chance. And after Magikina is killed, Shuri just tumbles forward, holding the predator's arm to pull him outside of the perimeter shield so she can have a better chance of fighting it head on. And the only thing she has to fight with is a spear that she pulls out of Magikina's eye. So as this predator pulls out its shurikens, he taunts Shuri by playing an audio that's part of the Magi's last few words, with it saying all blood is connected to other blood, just before the two of them go at it. And when they do, since Shuri can't communicate with anyone in Wakanda, she instead uses her comms to send a distress call to the outside world, hoping that someone will hear it and send reinforcements. But she keeps it short, because in the here and now, she's got to survive this fight in front of her. But following this, as T'Challa and the others are making their way to the Great Mound, for a moment here we do a bit of a flashback, because as they make their way, T'Challa's quiet, because he believes there's strength in silence, just like there's strength in a mask. And we're told here he needed to be silent now because he was afraid, because of what he had learned when the Yautja struck him with their shoulder cannons, when he fell into the swamp and the mud swallowed him, when darkness came, and he visited the ancestral plane. Because like we saw back in issue 1 when T'Challa was knocked out of the trees by the different scout predators who hit him with their plasma cannons, he was out of it for some time. So now what this does is it goes back to that moment before he came to, and it tells us that T'Challa took a trip to the ancestral plane and he had a talk with his grandfather, Azuri the Wise, where during this talk, Azuri tells T'Challa that the predators came to Wakanda before, which is something that we knew from issue 1, since the predator who's there now, he was defeated by his brother who used their father's spear, which was made of vibranium that came from Wakanda. But what's new and interesting is that we didn't know this Yautja's father fought against Azuri, and he goes on to tell T'Challa here, close to 500 of us died before it was all over. We burned their bodies, but we studied their weapons. Their cloaking technology helped inspire the perimeter shield, as did their greed for blood and vibranium. I was called an isolationist, but you can perhaps understand why. I wanted to protect my people, not just from these predators, but from all predators. And I'm saddened to say, that task now falls to you, grandson. And I gotta admit, that's a pretty wild revelation that just sends my imagination down a rabbit hole. And I really like that concept, because it creates a reasoning to Wakanda's leap in technological advances based on Yautja tech and driven by Zuri's paranoia. And to bring it back to these predators who've come now, this also explains how they were able to get through Wakanda's barriers so easily and hack all of their tech because it was based on their own. But Zuri goes on to say, if I am certain of anything, it is this: there will be nothing but bones and ashes left of Wakanda. If these predators have their way, you must stop them. The Panther must win. Which now brings us back to the present with T'Challa, who's made his way to the Great Mound with the others. And as soon as they arrive, T'Challa gets the drop on 2 of these predators who were here watching the entrance. And after he does, the Dora Milaje gets to stabbing him like crazy. But when they all leave from here to go deeper into the mines, we find out that T'Challa made a huge mistake because one of these predators was still alive, and they managed to send the word out to their clan leader to let him know that the Black Panther is coming. So right now, with T'Challa and the others still believing that they have the element of surprise, that is no longer the case. And it's all because of one little slip up. And we're told here that T'Challa made this mistake because of his haste, because of his fear. And with that said, I want you guys to keep in mind, from what we've seen in this story so far, we're dealing with the younger T'Challa who's still trying to figure out how to run his kingdom and how to protect it. Because going into this, we saw the whole thing with him and Shuri going back and forth about the idea of Wakanda opening up and helping others, which will make it interesting to see what he thinks about Shuri calling outsiders for help. But going into this, we're just shown that T'Challa's been doing things the way that his fathers did before him, which on one hand has him very closed off and protective as far as Wakanda's concerned. But that way of thinking has only pacified his inexperience. But now that he's facing this new threat that's crazier than anything he's seen before, sure, there's some slip-ups along the way, but in the larger picture, it seems like now, this T'Challa, he's being challenged to think and move differently, and it's happening at a time where there's little to no room for error. So yeah, usually I would feel some type of way about a T'Challa making a rookie mistake like that, but after taking all the factors into consideration, it's like, okay, I get it. Because it's not so much what's happening as it is when it's happening. But at the end of the day, when you're facing a threat like this, it doesn't care why you slipped up, and it's going to use everything it can to its advantage to end him. So yeah, it's not looking good for T'Challa, because the Predator and his clan, they know he's coming. And following this, for a moment we head back over to Shuri, who's barely come out on top against the scout that was trying to grab her, to where after she kills it, she pulls off its helmet. And when she does, you know she's got to tell him how ugly he is. Wouldn't be a Predator story if she didn't. But with her investigating this predator just out of curiosity, she soon realizes that its helmet is more than armor. It's a computer. So now this allows the history of this Wakanda's technology, which is based on Yautja technology, to once again work in the Wakandans' favor. Because since the Wakandan technology of this world was based on Yautja tech, this opens up the possibilities for Shuri to use this helmet to her advantage. But not long after she puts it on, she hears something fly overhead, which at first has her like, okay, what now? So she looks up, and it's Falcon, who is responding to her distress signal. And it's funny because she's looking at him like, who are you supposed to be? And he's never met her either, so there's that. But as it turns out, Falcon was already in Africa, shutting down a weapons dealer when he heard the call, so he came to check it out. So yeah, I'm not exactly sure if this is gonna turn the tides in Wakanda's favor, but really at this point, they need any help they can get. And that has me thinking, because I want to ask you guys, and let me know in the comments, but if you send out an SOS and somebody replies, is it disrespectful to send out another SOS while they standing there in hopes of better help showing up? Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Alright, so coming back, we pick up with T'Challa, Okoye, and really what's left of the Dora Milaje and Hattusilizi, who have survived this predator invasion thus far, where now they've all made their way to the Great Mound to stop these predators and their leader who've come here for the vibranium. And like we saw before, when T'Challa and the others arrived, one of the predators who they believed they'd killed had actually survived, which had then led to it reaching out to the clan leader, letting him know that the Black Panther was coming. So now within the Great Mound that the predators have taken over at this point, T'Challa and the others believe they have the element of surprise, which they did initially, but now that opportunity's gone and they don't even know it. And it's not as if they have their communications network, because the predators have taken that too. Because like we saw prior to this, the predators had been to Wakanda before, and it was that left behind Yautja tech that became the advancements in technology for Wakanda on this Earth, which is something that gave these invaders a huge advantage, since Wakanda's security and weapons, practically all their technology, is very familiar to their own. But at this point, before T'Challa and the others make their way in further, he lets them know that they're too exposed. So for that reason, they should head into the maintenance hatch and use that passage to descend into the main level of the mine, because otherwise they're just going to get picked off like we saw before when the Predators first arrived. But as they head into the maintenance hatch, Achilles hears something, so he goes to check it out, leaving T'Challa to believe that him and the other war dog will be following them down in the rear. But instead, this just leads to a world of trouble for the two that stayed behind, because at this point, the Yautja leader had his eyes on both of them, and they were walking right into a trap. Because when this war dog goes to look for Achilles, he spots a drone watching him from above, only to then trigger a mine stationed on the tunnel wall, which soon after detonates, slicing off his limbs like a blade through water. But get this, dude is still alive. And just after this, Achilles, who is getting ready to drop down the shaft after T'Challa, he comes back after hearing the war dog call for him, only to find this guy sliced up and barely breathing. So he shoots down the next drone and he rushes to him, saying, "It's okay, go with peace to your ancestors, knowing that I will avenge your death. I will kill them." Only for this huge predator foot to appear in a puddle of blood just before it's revealed that another predator is standing right over him. And it's crazy because the one who can barely talk, who's barely alive, he's about to watch his boy die before him. And it's messed up, but it wouldn't be a Predator's story without moments like these. And following this, we briefly head back over to Shuri and Falcon, with Falcon recently making his way here after receiving the distress call that Shuri put out. And so at this point, with Shuri killing one of these predators and hacking into its helmet, she's in the process of repurposing its weapons so she can put them to use. But at the same time, when it comes to Falcon, this is his first time of even hearing of Wakanda, let alone coming here. And it leads to this moment where Falcon's like, okay, let me get this straight. So you're a princess. Princess Shuri, of a kingdom called Wakanda that somehow kept itself hidden from the world and owes its wealth and power to its vast stores of vibranium, the same metal that's in Cap's shield, and you're currently being invaded by aliens? And it's kind of funny if you look at it from the perspective of, like, sure, finding out about Wakanda, that's mind-blowing enough, but to learn about this place as they're being invaded by aliens, that's next level. But he really has no choice but to believe it, because there's a predator corpse just laying over there to the side. So for a moment here, Falcon asks Shuri how could he help, only for her to tell him to shut his American mouth for a minute so she can concentrate on what she's doing. So what ends up happening here, when Shuri's done modifying the Predator's tech, after realizing how similar it was to their own, she uses it to open the barrier so they can get back into Wakanda. So in order for this to work, she tells Falcon to grab hold of her and be the big spoon so the two of them can pass through together and only be detected as one. And it kind of catches him off guard for a moment here, but I'm just like, whoa, Falcon, relax. She said spoon, not fork. But also with Shuri noticing the magnetic drive on Falcon's suit, she asks him if it's capable of GPS jamming and if the hard-like configuration of his wings can block infrared tracking, to where in both cases the answer is yes. So Shuri lets him know that these are things that they'll need to make their way in closer. And following this, when we go back to T'Challa and his group, as they step out of the air shaft, they're greeted with a thump, and T'Challa immediately recognizes that this is the headless body of Achilles. And this body was slid down here as a way of the nearby predator showing them that he knows they're down here. And right after seeing this body, T'Challa hears a recording of Achilles' voice saying, "I will kill every last one of them, I swear." Which, like we saw, were his last words to the war dog. So next, T'Challa tries to warn Okoye that their cover's blown. But as soon as he does, the Dora Milaje standing right next to Okoye, her head just gets juiced by a plasma cannon. So Okoye, she just acts. She doesn't have time to mourn or even try to figure out what exactly happened. So just going off of instinct, she flips out of the way and throws her spear in the direction of where the shot came from, nailing this predator who she couldn't even see. Meanwhile, over by T'Challa, he's confronted by the predator who killed Achilles, who again is playing the recording of Achilles' voice to taunt the Panther. And this fight ends up sending the two of them falling a greater distance, which allows the Panther to flip their bodies in the air so that the predator will hit the stone floor first and catch the impact from their fall. But now in this part of the mine where T'Challa was helping Okoye and the others drop down into, he's now made it down here with Okoye. And now with him being in the same part of the mine with her, he sees her fighting off predators left and right, with her vibranium spear just destroying their weapons. But these guys just keep coming out from the shadows one after the other. And when one of them nearly catches Okoye from behind, T'Challa's able to get him first before this predator's able to get to her. And as soon as he does, the rest of them hold their positions, which at first has Okoye thinking maybe they're finished. But T'Challa knows this isn't that. They're obeying the commands of another. And surely enough, when they turn around, they see the Yautja clan leader standing there with the other predators at his side. And when he removes his helmet, at first, Okoye, who's just doing her job, she tells T'Challa to get behind her. But T'Challa understands that this is a challenge more than anything else, and it's a fight that he must do himself without the help of Okoye or even the full protection of his Panther suit. Because in this moment, it's like an unspoken understanding where the Yautja leader is challenging Wakanda's champion. So T'Challa gets that, and he accepts. And it's a fair match, and I mean as close as fair can be in a situation like this. Because I mean, T'Challa, he has the power of the Black Panther, and this Yautja leader has a bionic leg. But in the here and now, both of these guys are armed with vibranium spears, which evens the playing field to an extent. But even with this being the case, the Yautja leader finds himself outmatched by T'Challa, and it is definitely a skill issue. Because keep in mind, this Yautja leader who brought his clan here to take Wakanda's vibranium, not only is he smaller than your average predator, but most of his life, because of his disability, he's usually been more effective when he's had technology at his disposal. But nonetheless, with T'Challa besting him here, it hurts the Yautja leader's pride big time. So when T'Challa asks him if he yields, he responds by striking T'Challa, because in this moment, the disgrace that this Yautja leader had felt his entire life, it had come crashing down on him. So he's not going to allow his father, or any king for that matter, to humiliate him even further. And when he does this, him and the other predators, they just leave T'Challa and Okoye here. Because now with them both wounded, the Yautja leader, he orders the others to get back to the ship. Because at this point, they've already got the vibranium that they'd come for. So going forward, the plan is to continue their mission, which was for the Yautja leader to get revenge against his father and brother, which now has the addition of coming back to Wakanda at a later date stronger than ever before. But as the Yautja leader and his crew were leaving the Great Mound, they were spotted by Shuri and Falcon, who at this point don't know all the details of what was going on here. And at this time, with the Wakandan communications still being down, Shuri's not even sure if her brother's still alive. But just based on what they're seeing now with this alien ship leaving the Great Mound, to Shuri, this is a clear indication of a vibranium heist going on. So naturally, her and Falcon make it a priority to make sure that this ship doesn't leave. Because as far as they know, they are Wakanda, and better yet, the world's last line of defense. So Falcon drops off Shuri on one side of the ship just before he flies to the other side in an attempt to create a breach, but he's not able to get through. Though on the other hand, Shuri, she's able to attach the Predator's gauntlet to the side of the ship and set the countdown for it to self-destruct, which of course leaves her in a situation to where when she lets go, she needs Falcon to swoop back around and catch her, which he does, though at first he's just telling Shuri how he's sorry he couldn't stop them and that they were too late. But as the ship is leaving, we're told here, the Yautja could not help himself. In the reckless heat of his escape, he blasted out a message warning his brother that he was coming home to win back his honor with God Metal and blood, with God Metal being what they call vibranium. But as soon as he sends out this message, the bomb detonates, and as we're told, nothing survived this blast but the vibranium and the greed it originally inspired. Because after this, when we head back to the Predator King and his favored son, we're told here that they tracked the warning message that was sent their way. And with doing so, what they found claimed their full attention, because now with this amount of God Metal that's just floating in space, we're told that there's enough to develop and advance their arsenal into one that would rival any in the cosmos, including Earth's, which sends off this story with a bit of a the end for now. But I can only imagine if we see these guys come back with their vibranium updates, Wakanda's gonna definitely have made some changes themselves too, in addition to their new perspective on getting outside help from other heroes across the world. And so now real quick, I want to give a special shout out to all the patrons. Thank you guys for all of your support. And for anyone who's new here, who wants more information on how to support the channel, I got a link below where you can go to patreon.com/dopespill. But that'll do it for this one, guys. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and we'll do it again on the next one. Alright, later.